Okay, everyone, so today we're going to be looking at your math book, so make sure you grab it. And you're going to turn to page 949, completing the square. Sorry I'm not there today. I got pulled for a meeting, but I'm going to work through a couple of these explains with you. Then assign you out a homework, and then we'll wrap this lesson up tomorrow to make sure you got it. So turn to page 949 of your math book. Okay, 949. So to start off, it says completing the square is a process of rewriting a quadratic expression as a perfect square trinomial so that it can be solved by taking square roots. This is going to help us find a way to factor and find an answer. In the Explorer, the method for completing the square when a equals 1 was modeled with tiles. And then the big takeaway from that is that the number of unit tiles equals the square of the number of x tiles on either side of the x squared. So we're looking at the relationship between these x's, okay, these x squareds, okay, and these ones. So to get an x squared, you take an x times an x. To get a 1, it's a 1 times an x. So essentially, when we're looking at this, to complete the square, we have to add the middle term divided by 2 and square it. Now to start off, it's not too bad, right? The steps are you have to identify what b is. Remember, it's ax squared plus bx, but we need to figure out how to add the term c. So to add the term c, I have to take the middle term and divide it by 2 and square it. So if I do that, that means 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 to the second power is 4. And then I'm here. Because what I'm wanting to go to is I'm going to want to factor this down and raise it to the power of 2. So that way I can get my answer. All right, let's try it. X squared minus 8x. Step 1, identify b. So b is going to be negative 8 because that's the number in front of x. So then to find what c is going to be, I take the middle term, negative 8, divide it by 2. I get negative 4 and square it, and I get 16. So my answer is going to be 8x squared minus 8x plus 16 is my perfect square trinomial. So when it says when b is negative, y is the result added to the expression still positive, and I want you to write any real number squared is always positive. Always positive. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have substitute pause the video at 9:49, and I want to see if you can tell me what is that C part. What is your perfect square trinomial? So if you could pause the video for about a minute or two and let students figure that out, and then press play when they're ready. So press pause now. So I know my middle term is 12. So I have to take b divided by 2 and square it to find my c term. So I have to take 12 divided by 2 and square it. So that's 6 squared, which is going to give me 36. That means my perfect square trinomial is x squared plus 12x plus 36. And I know that if I was going to factor it, that's where we're headed next. I know that would be x plus 6 squared because I can use the perfect square trinomial, or I can use my x method and see what multiplies to give me 36, but adds to give me 12. I know that's 6. I know a is 1, so it'd be 1 over. I could use that method too and get to the same place. The reason why I'm showing you this is because if you turn the page, on page 950, we're going to talk about completing the square when the constants equal to 0, okay? So when we add that piece on the left side, we also have to add it to the right side. So the first step is still find b over 2 squared. But the new piece is going to be we have to add b over 2 squared to both sides. Then you factor like we've been talking about. Then we take the square root of both sides. Remember, we have 2 answers when you take the square root of both sides. And then you write and solve 2 equations to tell what the final answer is. Checking is great. I just need to make sure you get here today. Okay, you can check your answer by just looking at Desmos and seeing where it crosses your x-axis. Okay, let's try one of them. So remember, here's our answer. We're missing our c term. So it says x squared plus 16x equals 36. So I need to find my c term. So I have to take my middle term b, which is 16, And I have to say 16 divided by 2 is going to give me 8. And then I have to square that to both sides. So 8 squared is going to give me 64. And then I'm going to write that on both sides. So I'm going to add 64 to the left, and I'm going to add 64 to the right. Then I just bring all of this down here. So this is going to be 1x squared plus 16x plus 64 here that I'm going to have to factor. Then 36 is going to come down to this side. So then I say 36 plus 64. That's 100. And that's what your book says. Step 1, find C, b over 2 squared. Step 2, add b over 2 squared to both sides. Step 3, factor and simplify. So then what multiplies to give me 64 but adds to give me 16? That's 1x plus 8 squared. Step 4, I take the square root just like we talked about Friday. So take the square to the left and the right. So the square root of 100 is plus or minus 10. So then I have to, number 5, split that into 2 different places. So I have to take 1 equals 10, 1x plus 8 equals 10, take away 8 from both sides. So x is going to give me positive 2. Then I say 1x plus 8 equals negative 10, subtract 8 from both sides, and I get negative 18, because that's negative 10 minus 8. And those are my 2 answers. Okay, I want you to try it. So on page 951, you're going to go through the steps. You're going to find your C term, b over 2 squared. You're going to add it to both sides. You're going to factor and simplify, and then you're going to take the square root and write what your 2 answers or zeros of the function are going to be. So on 951, I want the substitute to pause the video for about 3 minutes or so to give students a chance to show their work and make sure they have it. And then when you're ready, press play. So pause the video now. Okay, so if I take a look at 7, I know my b term is negative 10. So I now have to say b over 2 squared, which is going to equal negative 10 over 2 squared. So that's negative 5 squared, which gives me positive 25. So then I'm just going to rewrite that as x squared minus 10x plus 25 equals 11 plus 25. I'm going to draw my railroad tracks down because it's going to help me stay organized. I know 11 plus 25 is 36. What multiplies to give me 25 and adds to give me negative 10? It's a negative, so I have to say x minus 5 squared. Clean that up a little bit. So then how do I undo a square? I have to take the square root. So I have to take the square root of the left, square root of the right, and I get 2 answers, plus or minus 6. And then I have x minus 6. So once I get here, I have to split this into 2 pieces. So I have to say x minus 6 equals positive 6. Then I have to say x minus 6 equals negative 6. Okay? So then if I come on over, sorry, x minus 5. I apologize, y'all. Minus 5. X minus 5 equals 6. X minus 5 equals negative 6. So I add 5 to both sides. So one answer is x equals 11. I add 5 to the other side, and I get x equals negative 1. So let's go over the steps again. Middle term divided by 2 and squared it. Added it to both sides. Took the square root of both sides. Okay? Then if I come back, I have to split it into 2 pieces. Positive 6, negative 6. And then I have to solve for x to both sides. And this is my final answer. Okay, let's do one more example. So I'm going to come over. I'm going to find my middle term. So I'm going to say b is 6. So I have to say b over 2 squared. So that's 6 over 2 squared. So that c term is equal to 3 to the second power, which gives us 9. Okay, so I found my c term. Now I have to add it to both sides. So I have to say x squared plus 6x plus 9 on one side equals 2 plus 9 on the other side. Okay, I'm going to draw my lines down. I'm going to focus in on this. I'm going to add 2 plus 9, I get 11. I'm going to set that equal to what multiplies to give me 9, adds to give me 6. It's a positive b term. So it's x plus 3 squared. Remember, how do I undo a square? I take a square root. So I take the square to the left, square root of the right. So it's x plus 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 11. Now to solve for x, I need to subtract 3 from the left, subtract 3 from the right, and I can actually leave my answer if it doesn't say round it like this. -3 plus or minus the square root of 11. And I can say that's my final answer. Okay? Now, the last thing I kind of want to take a look at with you is explain 3. Because I really want to just make sure you have a chance to practice through the steps of completing the square. So let's look at 952 on that next page. So it says solving ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 by completing the square when a is going to be a perfect square. Okay? Now, this is more fun. We don't really see this a whole lot. But if a is a perfect square, you have a different formula. B squared over what? 4a. And this is when a is a perfect square. Okay? What I need you to know for star is this one. How do you complete the square when a is equal to 1, right? Because that's when, if we go all the way back to where we started, this is kind of what our learning target was. But let's extend the learning a little bit. And what if I wanted a to be a perfect square? Okay, so I'm going to jump back and we're just going to work through a couple of examples. So I'm on 952. And it says when a is a perfect square, completing the square is easier than in other cases. Recall that the number of unit tiles needed is equal to the square of b divided by 4a. So because a is 4 and not equal to 1, my formula changes. So I have to say b squared over 4a. So I know b is equal to -8. I divide that by 4 times whatever a is equal to. So 4 times 4 is 16. And then I get my new c term. So then it's the same thing. I add it to both sides. I take the square root of both sides, like I get here, plus or minus. Then I have to solve for x. So I need to get x by itself. Then I split it into 2 pieces, one negative answer, one positive answer. And then I get my answer. Okay? Okay, now let's take a look at the next example. So I know a is 9. Okay, I need to know that before I start. I know b is 6. So I need to use b squared over 4a. Okay, so I know b is 6. So I'm going to put 6 squared over 4 times 9. Then I know 6 to the second power is 36 over 36, which is going to give us 1. So then I just bring all of this down. 9x squared plus 6x plus 1 equals 10 plus 1. I know 10 plus 1 is 11. Then I'm just going to use my perfect square trinomial real quick. Or I could say 9 times 1 is 9. Multiplies to give me 9. Adds to give me 6. That's going to be 3 and 3. So I'm going to put 3x plus 3. Then I take the square root of both sides. I know that that's going to be 3x plus 1 equals plus or minus the square root of 11. Okay. Then I would go ahead and subtract that to both sides. So I need to make sure I say 3x plus 1 equals positive 11, or 3x plus 1 equals negative 11. So we're splitting it into pieces. Then I need to find my answer. Okay, so here's where it's going to get a little bit uglier. So I have to take 1 away from both sides. Okay, so that's kind of what this is showing. So I'm just going to draw a line to show you that. So I'm saying 3x is going to equal -1 plus the square root of 11. Then I have to divide both sides by 3. So I get this big, long, crazy answer. -1 plus square root of 11 over 3. Then I have to split this piece. 3x plus 3 equals negative square root of 11 here. And I have to take 3 away from both sides, which I'm doing here. Then I have to divide both sides by 3. So my other answer would be x equals -3 minus the square root of 11 over 3. Now this is much harder than the examples you're about to look at. Okay, now let's look at 9. How come the formula changed? How come we're using b squared over 4a? So it says in order for the procedure used in this section to work, why does a have to be a perfect square? Okay, if a binomial is squared, so if a binomial is squared, the leading coefficient will be a perfect square. The leading coefficient, write it with me, will be a perfect square. So if a binomial is square, the leading coefficient will also be a perfect square. All right, so I'm going to ask the sub to pause here and just give you guys about 4 minutes to kind of think through how to do 10 and 11. Okay, remember you're using the formula b squared over 4a to complete the square, factor it down, and tell me the two answers. And then I'm going to go over it with you. So pause the video now. Okay, so I know that my a term here is going to equal 16. I know my b term is negative 16. So I have to do b squared over 4a, because this is something a little different. So I'm looking for negative 16 squared over 4 times 16. Luckily for me, when I put all this into a calculator, I get a nice pretty number, 4. So then I come on over and I put 16x squared minus 16x plus 4 equals 5 plus 4. So then I know 5 plus 4 is 9. And then I can go ahead and use my perfect square trinomialness, and I can take the square root of the front, square root of the back. I know the middle term is negative, and I could say this is 4x minus 2 squared. So to get rid of the square, I have to take the square root of the left, square root of the right, and I'm left with 4x minus 2 equals plus or minus 3. Okay, so then I need to split this into two pieces. 4x minus 2 equals positive 3, and 4x minus 2 equals negative 3. And I'm just going to solve the first one. Add 2 to both sides. 4x equals 5. Divide both sides by 4, so x equals 5 over 4. Then I do the same thing on this one. Add 2 to the left. Add 2 to the right. I'm left with 4x equals negative 1. Divide both sides by 4, and I get x equals negative 1/4. Okay, now your homework tonight, remember where to find your homework. That's going to go ahead and be on Google Classroom. And then you're going to go, just to make sure you guys remember, I have all the trade notes listed there too. So I didn't know if you know that. So if you click on quadratic equations and polynomial expressions, and I click on this Google Doc, I can jump to today's date, which is April the 7th, and I can see what my homework is. Forgive me while I go forward just a little bit, because we'll have a test next week. So all these things are hyperlinked, so I can just click on this link here, and it'll go straight to the trade notes. If you wanted to know what the entire lesson looks like, it's all there. And your homework tonight is going to be a delta math. So I want you to take a look at the delta math. And then tomorrow we'll wrap up our learning and talk about the quadratic formula. And then, yes, there is even quadratic regression. I do have tutorials Monday after school if you need them. I also have them Tuesday after and before school Wednesday. I will see you guys later. Bye.